On this edition of the program, Trump and the courts, the Department of Education is no more, and the fallout of the continuing resolution vote. Katy Stech Ferek of the Wall Street Journal joins us. It's all coming up.
The following is brought to you by Just Another Pilot.
Hello and welcome, everybody, to the Politics program for March 21st, 2025. Your old pal Justin Robert Young joining you here in Austin, Texas. We'll be joined a little bit later by my good friend, whom I've known for a very long time. She is one of the best in the business on the Hill, Katy Stech Ferek of the Wall Street Journal, to talk about everything that's happened since the continuing resolution vote, Chuck Schumer's future, the strategy or lack thereof from the Democrats, and the town halls that are taking place right now around the country. We'll also get to the Department of Education news and everything that's happening in Israel and a little more. But I want to start with this, because there are some topics that I know I need to talk about because they are very front of mind in the news. And I know that if I don't talk about it, I'll get feedback from you guys. I'll get emails, I'll get stuff, because I like that we have a back and forth dialogue. And some of you will be very mad. There were some of you that were very mad that we did an episode ranking political campaigns last Friday, because there is a lot of news. And I always take that as a compliment, because it means that you guys care enough about my opinion that you're upset when I don't give it to you. And I appreciate that. But I do have to tell you that sometimes when I don't give my opinion, well, it's for a reason. It's probably because I don't have a ton to say on it. And so we bring ourselves to today. The number one story that I could pinpoint, just certainly based on headlines and commentary that I have read over the last 7 days, is Donald Trump's relationship with the courts. This has been on and off the number one story since he began signing executive orders, and various different judges of different kinds of municipalities have either ruled for or against. But most notably, it's been the ones that have ruled against him. Because the question then becomes, will Donald Trump defy the orders? Or are these judges overstepping their bounds? Are they stepping on the lawful ability from the executive branch to do their job? Or is this just simply checks and balances? And nothing has brought this more to the fore than Donald Trump trying to use the Alien Enemies Act to deport migrants from, allegedly, the Tren de Aragua gang to a supermax prison in El Salvador. This became an issue because a judge ruled that Donald Trump's application of this law was illegal. And then very specifically got mad because one of the planes that left and was in midair when that ruling came down was not returned. Now, the administration has a reason why, and the judge was mad about it. But this sparked the idea of a constitutional crisis. Is Donald Trump refusing to heed the judiciary? And boy, some people were madder than ex-Harry Cision flings. They were pissed. They were cheesed. And this is where I should come in and I should have a real definitive side on this. I should say, absolutely, Donald Trump is going rogue. Donald Trump is a lawless president. He's an authoritarian, and he's going to continue to ram down the walls that hold up our government until he is indeed not just an authoritarian, but a king. Steve Bannon is out here talking about how he's going to run for a third term. Friends, all of the pieces are in front of us. This is an authoritarian overrun. I'll take the other side, and I would say Donald Trump is doing what 80% of the country believes is totally in line. He's cleaning up streets that have otherwise been overrun. And if you wonder why the reviews of the votes that happened this week of the 2024 vote, white people voted the exact same way that they voted in 2020, and it was minorities that put Donald Trump over the top. You wonder why? The reason why is that it's Spanish-speaking communities that Tren de Aragua gang members are going to show up to first before they start bothering the whites. And it is Donald Trump answering the reason why he's in the office in the first place by getting them the hell out of there. I could say that. I could say either of those two things. And that would be strident, you know. That's what a lot of pundits do. You know, they'll triangulate, figure out, okay, where are we going with this? But I got to have a clear-eyed point of view on this. But I'm bad at that. I'm not good at that. Because I've been on the internet long enough to know that there are receipts. And while there are elements of both of those arguments that I believe, I don't really feel like I could fall into either one of those two poles. So here are the elements of that I do believe on either side. Number one, I do think that Donald Trump probably should be proving some level of just cause to deport people, even if they are Tren de Aragua gang members. And I'm not here to see their entire rap sheet, but if we could get names and faces, be nice. Especially in special circumstances like you have here with the Alien Enemies Act. Quite simply because even if you believe that this is just and right and these people should be deported, you don't want to make a mistake. There's at least one person whose immigration attorney says that he's just a simple soccer player. He's not a member of Tren de Aragua, and he was deported because of his tattoos. Maybe that's true. I don't know. Similarly, I do believe that Donald Trump is fundamentally reshaping a core tenet of our modern political meta. And that is, he's kind of doing the things that he said he was going to do. And for some people who are excited about all of his campaign promises, holy crap, are they thrilled? But for others who are terrified about his campaign, holy crap, are they scared? If we're to take just two steps back from a political perspective, this is going to affect political races for the rest of my life. Because now things you say on the campaign are probably going to be looked at a little bit differently. That's probably a good thing for the record. Still, immigration was a major issue in this campaign. Crime is a major issue, especially in liberal cities. And so Donald Trump putting people that are believed to be sources of these issues is him doing what he said he was going to do. But none of that's what I really think is important here. Here's what I do think is important here. This is the reason why I wrestled with this monologue so long. Nobody should really have a big opinion right now. And I don't have a big opinion because this is a process. Donald Trump is doing things that are very aggressive. I would imagine that very aggressive things are going to get challenged by the courts. He says he's going to comply with the courts. He says he's going to be aggressive in defending his position. And eventually we got to get to the end of this. And I would say to anybody who's talking about how important judges are, we need to respect judges, and the judiciary is a huge part of our American fabric. I agree with you, but watch how strident you're getting. Because if we take just a couple month long view on this, spoiler alert, a lot of what Donald Trump says he wants to do might be agreed with by the Supreme Court, which is the final say in these matters. The same Supreme Court that the left has been very, very, very mad at. So if you're talking about how the judges need to be respected, I would just ask you to be prepared to respect the judges at the end of this process. But other than that, I feel like I just need to watch it. And I respect everybody else who's charging into the breach, takes held high, screaming and yelling so anybody will hear them. But I wanted to address it and tell you, I got nothing. All right. We got the update, and then we're coming back with Katy. This is your update, brought to you by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Head on over there if you would like to get 2 bonus episodes each and every week. One on Sunday, it goes live on Sunday, but it's for Monday, one for Thursday. We're here for you when the news will not stop, and we appreciate everybody who signs up. TakePoliticsSeriously.com brings you to our Substack for $3 a week, man. Price of a cup of coffee. Bill $12 a month. You get 2 bonus episodes each and every week. $99 for the entire year. That's less than $1 an episode. It's value, my friends. It's value. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. The Israeli military intensified ground operations across Gaza, recapturing strategic locations and prompting Hamas to fire rockets into central Israel. This ended a 2-month ceasefire. Israel demanded Hamas release hostages and disarm its military wing, which Hamas said no to. Hamas has reported that recent Israeli attacks have killed over 500 Gazans. The U.S. backs Israel's actions, while Hamas maintains its stance to continue fighting if attacks persist. Mediation efforts have currently stalled as both sides remain far apart. Hamas's allies in Yemen resumed attacks against Israel, further complicating negotiations. The conflict, which has been ongoing since October 2023, has caused extensive casualties and a humanitarian crisis. Obviously, we did have a ceasefire and some hostage transfer in exchange for prisoner release, and now everything has sort of fallen apart as Hamas is running out of hostages. And quite frankly, they know that it's curtains after this. They don't have a lot of allies. They don't. There's not a lot of folks that want Hamas there, up to and including some of the other gangs that are in Gaza. So, as with many things in the Middle East, I have no idea how this resolves. The rockets that were launched by Hamas were not a lot. I think there were 3. They were all intercepted. So the big thing that you'd watch for now is exactly how powerful is Hamas. And if they're not, is an Israeli sweep just that much faster? President Trump today signed an executive order directing the closure of the Department of Education, fulfilling a campaign promise to return education control to the states. Former closure will require congressional approval, but significant staffing cuts and restrictions can effectively cripple the agency. Democrats have strongly opposed the move, citing harm to disadvantaged students, loss of civil rights protections, and negative impacts on public education. A coalition of Democratic attorneys general have sued to prevent the department's closure, arguing that Trump's actions are unlawful. Get ready for more court cases. Trump's order also targets diversity and inclusion programs, intensifying an ideological battle over education policy and federal oversight. Linda McMahon is the Secretary of Education. She will look to tombstone her charges. The closure of the Department of Education has been a conservative priority for as long as I've been alive. It was established in 1975, and since then, the argument has been that it has been nothing but a hindrance to public education. The public education has gotten worse. And the reason why there is probably a window right now to do it is because there's a lot of negative opinion on public education. Most of it stems from the consequences that came from school closures during the COVID lockdowns. What is inarguable is that the results of kids with a public education are dire. Reading comprehension is down. Computation is down. Harvard is now offering a remedial algebra class for incoming freshmen that are aged 18 years old. It's the first time that they have ever had to do it. Now, what we do need to remember with the Department of Education is that aside from money that goes to specialty programs, most of the funding for public education is handled by the states currently. The reason why there has been conservative outcry to shut it down is not necessarily that it is doing a bad job, although you would have to argue that it's not doing a great job, but still, it's that it is a gigantic waste of money. And that any influence that it has is not connected to the problems that are in these classrooms. That being said, like many of Trump's executive orders in terms of trying to shut down elements of the federal government, I'm going to go ahead and expect that this will be caught up in the courts and the Department of Education will probably still be functioning in a month. Now, the legislative path to get it shut down is a lot more challenging because that needs 60 votes in the Senate. And I don't think it is going to get that anytime soon. Finally, George Glezmann, an American abducted by the Taliban in Afghanistan in 2022, has been released through negotiations led by the Trump administration and mediated by Qatar. Glezmann has returned home via Doha, and it marks the third American freed since January. Unlike previous prisoner exchanges, the U.S. released no Taliban prisoner in return, calling the release a goodwill gesture. Glezmann's release highlights ongoing diplomatic engagements between the U.S. and the Taliban, despite no formal recognition. Meanwhile, concerns persist over other detainees, including Afghan-American businessman Mahmoud Habibi, whose family insists remains detained by the Taliban despite their denials, calling for continued U.S. diplomatic pressure. Trump has been pretty good about getting people out of trouble. What we don't know is the actual terms of that deal, or when we were talking about goodwill gestures from people that in general Americans find unsavory, what is it goodwill to get to? You always got to read the fine print. And that's your update. TakePoliticsSeriously.com is where you need to go. And now, the number one, Katy Stech Ferek. We need to talk about where we are in Congress right now, because as everybody has gone back to their districts, boy, do they have big opinions. And so we are joined by the Wall Street Journal's Katy Stech Ferek, who covers both sides of Congress. How you doing, Katy?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm glad that we have you here now. I was thinking about reaching out to you last week, but I think it probably would have been a little bit of a busy thing. And I'm glad we waited because now we can kind of see what was heat of the moment talk and what was real. How angry is, and we're going to start with the House and then get to the Senate. How angry is the House with Chuck Schumer?
I mean, 10 out of 10 fury. I mean, people were so mad, especially last week when they were all at the retreat, and they after they had taken this vote and all stuck together, the people were so mad. People were so the suspense of what Schumer would do, and then what he ultimately did. People were like, the smolder is real, and we're all sort of still kind of waiting through the aftermath a little bit to see what the implications are.
So let's go back to what was expected, right? And just to set the scene for everybody, because we were never a gigantic believer that they were going to actually shut down the government here on this program, but he did make the feint that he would on Wednesday. That was after the vote was taken. But when the House takes that vote, and we talked again about it is impressive that Speaker Johnson was able to keep his motley crew together, but the Democrats expected at that point that Schumer would go through with it.
I think that there was a lot of suspense. And again, like to your point, like he made that statement of like, that gave a lot of people hope that they would actually, there was some sort of like strategy behind it. There was some big ask. There was going to be some moment in which Democrats emerged with like a little bit of leverage. I mean, everyone went into this, I feel like back when the election happened, people looked to this date and they said, okay, Republican trifecta, what is our first moment of leverage? What is the first moment in which we will have, like, Democrats will matter? And everyone looked to this, right? I mean, because even if the House held it together and Johnson was able to bring people on board, which he did, I mean, you need 60 votes in the Senate. So I think there was a lot of buildup and a lot of hope on the Dem side that this moment would like give them something, or like, lead to something. And it's just the sense of everybody that just didn't. So,
well, let's interrogate that for a second, because I think this is at the core of a lot of what's happening in, congressional Democratic world, is that everybody assumes that everybody else has a plan. Nobody really sticks to any kind of a plan. And if the point was, hey, guys, let's make sure that in this moment where they're actually going to need something from us, we keep our powder dry and we focus on whatever leverage we can. Let's build all of our messaging to one point, and so we can then really, really squeeze them for something. We can get something out of it. Then swinging at every pitch they've seen since the beginning of this administration, being out and doing televised demonstrations in front of USAID, Chuck Schumer holding up a Corona and a lime. Like, there's every little thing, every 12-hour story they have made a gigantic deal about, obviously not talking to each other. They have this huge embarrassing moment during the State of the Union that's not a State of the Union,
totally.
right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, so when is there any communication on any of this?
Right. And those are the questions that we're asking here. Like, what sort of coordination was there? Was there any, like, you know what I mean? And it makes me actually think a little bit about like Pelosi and Schumer's relationship. Like, what was that like? What is Jeffries and Schumer like? Like, what are they coordinating on? And I will say, like, vibes did change a little bit. It feels like in the House where, like, the joint address week felt like a Dems in disarray week. It felt like nobody knew. Everyone was fighting over how to fight, whether to fight, like the style of fighting. It was just sort of chaotic. Yeah. And like the next week, like everyone came back and Jeffrey sort of kept everyone but, Golden from Maine on board with it. Yeah. So it was sort of like a kind of an overnight. I think there was a little bit of disorientation, like, and a little bit of like, oh, how did that happen? How do we go from like
we can't coordinate wardrobe, and we can't figure out who's yelling and who's screaming and what ping pong paddles to bring, and whether or not we're cheering for the kid with brain cancer or not. But now we can actually vote.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So it's like that. So the House side stuff is a little bit of, it's interesting to wade through afterwards, because you're like, wait, like Dems are looking around being like, we did that, okay. But to your larger point of like overall what the party wants, and everyone's back. home this week, and everyone's having their town halls this week, and it's just as chaotic as you would expect. I mean, the anger is real. I mean, we just
Yeah.
had that town hall last night in Maryland, Glen Ivy's district, where there was just a lot of frustration, like fight
Hooting and
harder.
hollering.
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
lot of anger, and he goes and explicitly calls for Schumer to step down. Before we get to the Senate, let me ask you this on the House side. From a meta perspective, and this is, a larger zoom out a little perspective. The one thing that the Democrats, in good times and bad, have been very good about is keeping a brand of never owning a shutdown. Whether or not they're the people that actually are the ones who are doing it,
Right.
they are able to successfully leverage the fact that there are people within the Republican conference that will talk about how shutdowns are great and maybe we should always have a shutdown and maybe we should shut down the government every day. And so they are able to put that blame on the other side. This would have been a meaningful erosion of that brand. How aware on the House side were they that this is a thing that would be markedly different than the way that they've not only done things in the recent past, but in, the last 30 years?
Yes. I mean, this is like the politics of it, right? Like there were definitely a handful, at least a handful of House Republicans that were very aware that this was not a tough vote for them, right? Like they were able to do this without any sort of consequences. And there's a crowd in the House among House Democrats that were like, it would have been really bad if this would have happened.
Yeah.
And we're just really lucky that the lay of the land happened in a way that it didn't really matter. They could take this vote and really not face the consequences for it. But yeah, there's definitely still a block within House Democrats that recognizes that this would have been bad. I mean, there were no good options for Democrats here, but recognize that this would have been really bad. And we're really grateful that things ended up the way they did. It wasn't a sea change.
I have one more House question that I'm going to ask for my friend Jen Briney, who this is her big thing, but she's like, look, shutting down the House, she's a big anti-shutdown person, just in general. She's like, if you need we're fighting, we're doing something thing, that there are a few open seats that are going to be voted on. And yes, they're in places that are not ideal for Democrats. But if you just want to take a symbolic fight, then why isn't House leadership out there in the redneck Riviera of Florida raising money and doing anything you can to at least make a show of some of these seats that could actually, the margin is so thin that it could actually either erode the already challenging position that the Republicans have, or possibly even take the chamber if all three of these highly unlikely to go to Democrat seats were there. Is that even a conversation amongst the House?
I mean, I just think that they don't, to your point, they don't know what to do with this. They don't know whether or not to harness this and take it to Florida or take it to Wisconsin and say, like, yes, here's where we're going to channel this. Here's where we're going to do this. I mean, the strategy, one person was telling me that the strategy at town halls is like, well, if you know people in this state, call them and ask them to call. I mean, they're trying to tell people what to do and give them something.
Yeah.
And the answer, the question is always like, what are you doing and what can we do?
Yeah.
At these town halls. And the answer is always like, not much, but here's some court cases. And if you know anybody in these states that maybe tell them to call, like the channeling of this stuff, like the harnessing of it and like, what should we do? I mean, everyone wants a satisfying answer to that. And I don't think Democrats have really figured out.
I mean, because the answer is you should have done better in November. That's the answer. The answer is, this is just, I'm sorry. There is elections have consequences. You are in the minority in all three of the places where you need to actually have power. This is what happens. I don't know what anybody was expecting. And if the answer from House Democrats right now is, oh, we don't want to compete in Florida. We don't want to compete in New York because we know we're going to lose those districts. You were going to lose this fight. Like pick the losing fight that you want to try in.
The assignment was in November is the message.
Yes.
And that it's just, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, and even again, last night when we saw that one person stand up and yell at Glen Ivy, like, I don't want to be told that you're in the minority. I don't want to be told that. And,
well,
yeah. And I think that's, if we want to talk Senate side, obviously this is where everyone's channeling their anger into Schumer. We saw like Sanders talk, kind of even come to his defense a little bit and be like, yeah, I'm not happy. I'm the first to criticize Schumer, but I like he's taking like this is somewhat unfair. Like he's sort of like the channeling the energy of the anger for this right
Yeah.
now.
Let's
So
let's go ahead and flip on over to the more austere. Let's leave the gas station and go to the country club of American legislative politics. My biggest thing, and this is what was my monologue on Wednesday, is Schumer screwed up not because he avoided the shutdown. To me, that was always, number one, it was going to happen. It will eventually happen no matter what. Even if you shut the government down, at a certain point, you need to understand when you reopen the government and what you would want for it. And by the way, the history of this is you never get anything. You get bupkis. You get the ability to shut the government down. That's it.
right. Would have been very satisfying for some, but
For some, and then
those
eventually
practically big mess.
Yeah. I think even if you get away from the idea of like, do you really want Russ Vought of all people to determine who's mandatory and who's not for the government? Because I'm going to take a wild guess and say he'd probably rule himself out and shut everything down. But beyond that, if we were just imagine this to be the same kind of shutdown that has happened in the past, it has been fruitless politically. And that's the reason why Democrats have been smart to be able to shunt this off no matter how they behave in these processes. They've been smart to do it. But my question was with Schumer, when he first came out and said, Republicans don't have the votes, we think this is a bad deal. I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe his conference is really gung-ho about this. Maybe they really don't. It's just Fetterman that's out there saying that he's gonna vote for it. And then something changed. And so what I want to know, and I don't know how much you have a sense of this, is did Schumer believe that there were not the votes for it on Wednesday and then finds out 24 hours later, gets a few sneaky text messages and some knocks on his door and says, oh, by the way, I'm really not about that life? Or was this a feint to try and scare the Republicans who were very obviously not scared?
Yeah, I think it would be, truly, I don't obviously know, but I think it would be really shocking if he didn't have a really good handle on his whip count when he made those statements. I always think back to even earlier in the week though too. Was the miscalculation looking back on Monday and thinking, oh, the House is going to take care of this. Those guys never vote for CRs. This is not going to be my problem. To what degree was this the last 2 days of this was
they didn't have a plan for this version of it.
Yeah. To what degree was it all just decision making in an element of surprise because no one he just didn't think that would happen, that it would ever end up being a Senate problem, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're sort of making decisions in that sort of, if that's the case, if that was the miscalculation, then you're sort of decision making in this era of well, there were no good options. was hoping that maybe this wouldn't be a problem, but now it's a problem, and it just...
That might be more damning. Because I was... The most kind version of this to Schumer is that he didn't have a hold on his whip count, or his whip count was, fainting one way when in reality they were never going to be there. The most incompetent he could be was he knew exactly the cards he was holding. He bluffed on the worst hand he could possibly do it. John Thune, to his credit, was like, no. And then he just had to eat it himself. But then I think maybe around that in terms of bad outcomes for him would be, oh, I just never thought I would have to deal with this because the Republicans don't pass things. When, look, now we have enough of a track record to say there's been 3 votes that have been very close that Johnson was able to get through. And we can debate how much it's his power versus the White House, but the reality is, whatever the machinations are, they are aligned to get everybody but Thomas Massie to vote for things. And this was the least impressive of it, even though, as you pointed out, there are some people that find continuing resolutions to be a mortal sin.
Totally. And it does sort of boggle the mind to think, if you would have told me a year ago that Republicans would be able to unify around something like this, that everyone but maybe Massie would be on board and be able to, stick together as a block, I 0% would have believed. I mean, like you just knowing the culture and like the history and the the infighting and the relationships and just the cultural norms that happen among
Yeah.
Republicans. Like there's just no way that I think anyone envisioned this. To be clear, that's not an excuse for anybody. I mean, the winds change and anything's
Yeah.
possible. I mean, so, but yeah, it is the unity on the Republican side. Listen, nobody said like being in the minority was easy. I think that's
Yeah.
sort of just the overarching theme of this. Like this was never going to be fun or easy for Democrats to navigate, and
Yeah.
it's just going to be like bad choice after bad choice and no good options and just more of this for like the next 2 years and beyond, perhaps.
Yeah. It's interesting because if you look back, Republicans were in this position back in 2008 where they were in the valley. They did not have any power, and they were eventually able to kind of wait until they found Obamacare, where they found a lane that they could really exploit. And obviously that is the playbook now, as Democrats are trying to use almost to the letter the exact same Obamacare stuff, with Elon being the new version of Obamacare in terms of very disruptive town halls and stuff like that.
Right.
But, this is my thing with them right now, is that they're just so twitchy, where it's like Elon could just leave for Texas tomorrow. And then where's all the energy that you put into that? Like
Right.
the day that Donald Trump tweets like a small brain Elon finally left DC, good riddance. Like this is going to be the same thing as Project 2025. You irradiated a thing that's not the guy you need to irradiate.
Right. No, they are trying to figure this out. I mean, there's this, like, again, no one can agree on
Yeah.
what they should do next. There's offense, there's defense, there's different ways to think of what we should. I mean, are we the defenders of these things? Is that our play? Are we
Yeah.
what sort of vision do we put out there to draw people back? I mean, there's just very little, people will say there's some unity, like, protect veterans, but like I said,
Yeah.
it's protecting status quo kind of stuff that also sort of gets them in trouble. I mean, the vision of protecting status quo, I mean, that didn't work in November either, so
Well,
it's
especially when you're going for stuff like USAID, where it's like nobody knows what that is. The things that people hear the most about it are the most outlandish versions of things that happen with USAID. So to jump up and down about that, I always just thought it's like, what do you do? Why are you burning the time? Why are you wasting the email to get people out there so C-SPAN can cover you screaming and yelling about a thing that the American public don't?
debate stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that they don't want. All right, so let me ask you about some of the votes that did come in on the Senate side, because some of them did surprise me.
Oh, shots, yeah. Go ahead.
So I would say shots, yeah, but also someone who didn't vote for it, and that was John Ossoff. John Ossoff had voted for the Lake and Riley Act. He has possibly maybe the toughest reelect coming up in the midterms if the governor, Brian Kemp, runs in Georgia. But he voted against this. And that very much surprised me, because of all the people that I thought was going to make up the difference to get to 260, I thought he'd be among them.
Given the political lay of the land, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I guess this would say that he believes we're going to be in a world where people are just really, really mad at Trump by the time that the midterms come around, and this is going to be a positive point, not a liability for him.
Right. I mean, this too shall pass, like, sentiment and the idea that there will be like 1,000 things between now and then. I mean, I think that's something people that weigh pretty heavily on people, like sort of with everything that's raised right now. I mean, even just think about should AOC challenge Schumer? I mean, 4 years from now is eternity, right?
Andrew Cuomo's going to be the mayor of New York City. This is, we don't live in a world where consequences last longer than McDonald's French fries. Like this just comes and goes.
Right. So I think, I mean, that's one of the huge overarching factors here too, is like, to what degree are people to what degree will there be actual consequences back home for what people did here like this past week? I mean, I did hear like a lot of like this too shall pass
Yeah.
from people I trust that, when you message like, wait, what does this mean? What is this like? Where's this going? What's the aftermath here? How's this going to fall out? Like, what's the fallout for this? And it's just, there's some steady hand perspectives of like, yep, that's a problem for way later, and there's going to be 34 crises, between now and next week.
Obviously, the House is jumping mad about Schumer, but there is a natural rift between the House and the Senate, even in the best of times.
Oh yeah.
So I don't really take any of that particularly seriously. I would take it seriously if people in the Senate started talking about it. So how
Absolutely.
mad is the Senate at Chuck Schumer?
Well, this is what I mean. Again, with Bernie coming out and being like, no, 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 no. I mean, I think everyone was watching him right now because he's having his real moment of harnessing the anger.
Yeah.
I think there were like light discussions, like kind of suggestions that like, people felt like they had to say something that acknowledged that there should be discussions. And I mean, this is the time that we're in right now. Is like everyone is home. I mean, Schumer has gone out on tour, gone out on media tour, canceling his book tour.
Yeah, not his book tour, but now he's on. Now he's on The View talking about how people don't want their money taken away. Like, I'm starting to think that The View is an RNC psyop, like considering how much it just reliably mints Democrats saying things that can be run in Republican ads. But anyway, so yeah, he's on a media tour.
Totally. Yeah. And that's what, I mean, everyone is going back to their districts right now and facing these questions. I mean, everybody that had a town hall was like, hey, add to the question, like someone in the audience is going to say, should Schumer go? Right. So this is something that everyone is like chewing on right now. And I can't tell if this is like, it's real like Biden dropout vibes. Remember like how the speech.
I think that, and part of it is, I think donors got a taste of blood. Because that was very much a donor revolt where the money all of a sudden dried up and they were able to move a president off the ticket in an election year. And so now I think that there's some donors who are like, oh, cool. I want Schumer out. So let's pump money into anti-Schumer stuff. I think this is very much a donor bloodlust thing.
Yeah. Well, and it even felt like we got those vibes like on Friday when the House lawmaker or the House leadership came back from there, drove all the way back from ruralish Virginia, to come back and hold a press conference to say how angry they were, right? And it felt like a little Pelosi of like Schumer's made a decision. Well, we sure hope Schumer makes the right decision. It felt like just the parallels, but then again, I mean, this too shall pass, and Schumer's track record and what he'll be able to do next, and will he be able to change and become this man of the moment and meet the moment. That's what we're all watching for. I mean, of course these discussions are going to happen, but you're very right to point out that the House environment is very different. Killing your leader is just cultural over there. It's a thing that Republicans do. It's a thing that Democrats sort of seem to be entertaining, from time to time now. And it's shocking to have open discussions like that on the Senate side. So we'll see where it goes.
When we talk about leadership change, which I will point out historically does not happen unless the person steps down. This is, of all the positions of power, hard and soft in DC, this is an unelectable position. It is a position that is decided for reasons that go beyond popularity, that are often about fundraising, that's often about who you can talk to, how you can whip the vote count. These are not things that are easily replaceable. There's a reason why Mitch McConnell stayed in his position, despite the fact that people were very angry with him for a while. Still, if there were to be a changing of the guard, it seems like the clear-cut replacement would be somebody that you mentioned that did vote for the CR, and that is Brian Schatz of Hawaii, right?
I mean, people are watching him very closely, right? And they've seen him in the last couple of years be more outspoken. I mean, when you think of the voices breaking through and engaging and saying, hey, we have to be more thoughtful here, smarter here. I mean, the leadership void among Democrats. What's been really interesting to watch is people go on, Democrats go on TV and people say, well, who do you think is the leader of the Democratic Party right now? And Democrats like not answer that question, right? So like,
Because they don't know.
yeah. So to some degree, like we're like talking about like, oh, successors in the Senate in an era where, you know, you can have a moment and you can go out and like kind of lead a little bit, and everyone looks over like, oh, what's happening over here? Wait, is this what's happening now? Like, this like kind of vacuum has created this really weird environment where like we don't know what people's intentions are or where they're going to end up or what they're trying to do or what they're trying to accomplish. Like, I don't know. We don't know where this is happening. So
I wonder, I mean, nobody's listening to me, but if I were to offer something to the Democrats, I would say, and this is what I've said from the very beginning, get weird with it. Have a bunch of people put a bunch of stuff out there, say a bunch of things, and just see what tests. Like, this is the time where you have an ability to get a little free range with things and just see what people are responding to, and specifically find things that people care about for you to do. And that's the problem with being an opposition party for everything. And it's oftentimes a reason why the Republicans got stale, I think, in the minds of the American voter before Trump, was that it was just, oh, whatever Obama does, whatever, you know, we're the opposite of. And it's like, okay, so what is your idea? And it's like Paul Ryan's like, well, entitlement reform. Okay, thank you, Paul, for your very unpopular idea. Other than that, they didn't really have anything. There wasn't, I mean, aside from pro-life and everything, the things that are like constitutional to their party, there was no independent issue that an independent voter would care about that they could own. And what Democrats don't have that right now. Like, they are really, there's a reason why you see these numbers that their party is in like the low or high 20s in terms of approval, sometimes mid 20s in terms of approval, which is like apocalyptic. Like, that is terrifying.
Yeah, given the environment, that sort of creativity, it's where like the exploration of that and the range and like the what are people taking back when they go to their districts and what are they learning from it, and then, you know, even just the styles of engagement, like where should we be having these conversations? Let's go on podcasts. Let's swear more, which has been like
swearing and talking about sports, which it's like. Can I ask you about the videos? They did videos leading up to this CR. They had all of the senators that read the same script, but they were doing it in the cool TikTok style where like, and it was edited the exact same. Did they know that that's ridiculous? Like, or like who's sending these marching orders?
Trying to figure it out.
Who thinks this is a good idea?
Yeah, I mean, the messaging folks and the way that they're trying to get people to be more comfortable and the way they're trying to humanize and be real and connect with folks is like there's like guidance on that. I mean, they invited influencers to try to help after the joint address. Like, here, participate in these videos. That's where the origin, I think, of the jumping video.
Gotcha.
On the House Democrat side, right? So.
The choose your fighter.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's some real.
Which, by the way, I'm ancient, and I know that meme was like a year and a half ago. Like, I'm a fossil. I am so far out of the realm of a Gen Z TikTok hipness, and I remember seeing those videos a year and a half ago.
I was with Jasmine Crockett when she watched it for the first time.
Really?
Somebody was like, hey, what are you, like, you're getting shade on this. And she's like, what am I getting shade on? And it was after a vote. And she watched and she's like, I didn't like the jumping, but no one can dispute the dancing. But yeah, so watching her watch that for the first time, you know, it's, they're trying to figure out how to connect with folks. They're trying to be there for folks at a time when like people want to know what's going on. I mean, the level of engagement and the level of appetite for like what the heck is happening in Congress is like off the charts. Everyone wants to know. These town halls are like insane. And the phone lines and the curiosity as to what Democrats are going to do, it's like off the charts. So I think they're trying to like engage on that and like
that actually might be a great explainer for it, is that there's a tremendous amount of interest and anger And in the best of times, you would need high competency, talent, and strategy to deal with the fact that your people are very angry and you have literally no levers to pull at all whatsoever. And we don't have that right now. They are not sending their best. Jeffries is new. Pelosi's is on pain meds. Schumer has never been a great tactician. I think he is in the Godfather sense, not a wartime consigliere. He is probably best in a situation like he was with Biden, where he can work in concert with the White House to move things along. But other than that, I think there's a reason why somebody like Jasmine Crockett has gotten the kind of attention that she has, because
Totally.
she'll say the thing, but I don't know if that's nutritious. I think it might be great for clicks,
Totally.
but it doesn't really advance anything.
It's an influencer Congress, right? Like,
That's it.
It's an influencer Congress. So I think she and other members that are sort of like seen as rising stars, like the successful messengers that are saying it, what that means to the overall cause and people getting to where they need to be, and like the party figuring itself out, like, you can debate the merits of that. But yeah, it's an influencer Congress. Anyone can sort of break through.
They have traded Rayburn for ring lights. It is the influencer Congress.
Yeah, it's the traditional ways of, but there's one Democrat that, I watch pretty closely, and he's just like, this messaging is the only game we have right now. So like, let's go for it. Right. It's the only hand we have. So like, participate in it. Right. So,
yeah. I think number one, for all the hand wringing, the only thing that really, really matters is that everybody understands that if your approval rating is in the 20s, that means that half of your own party hates you. So nobody should really be clinging on to anything particularly closely. Like, everything old and new should be looked at as like, hey, none of this is working. Nothing is working. Like, if we go any lower than where we are right now, then we're in replacement party territory. We are in like defecting from the Democratic Party structure territory if they go any lower. So screw it. If some of this stuff is embarrassing and some of this stuff is weird and some of this stuff isn't exactly the way that we would do it in the past, then whatever. Like we gotta try everything, because nothing is working right now.
Right. Well, and then to some degree, like the small things. I mean, people won't remember the weird jumping video, but will they remember if you couldn't, like, your social security was cut off and you had to go in person to try to restore it? You know what I mean? I mean, I think that's like sort of like one of the big overarching arguments that Dems are trying here, which is like, we saw this a little bit, like the morning of the joint address, right? House Democrats were told, like, just let Trump do his thing. We want his words to be the headlines. Like, let his policies, give him rope to hang himself. Like, what he says should be unappealing enough, right? And then obviously we saw it happen to the joint address. But I think that is like one of the bigger pieces at play here of like Democrats saying, no, what Republicans are doing and are about to do is unsavory enough. Let's just let them take the wheel here and let that shine. And that will be the thing that, leads to our, but yeah, the big questions over whether or not Dems will be able to capitalize on all of this, right? People rushing into their arms and them not, like what will they be able to say? And will this lead to any sort of like blue wave momentum in 2 years, right? When people come,
although that's gonna come a lot faster than we think, right? Like, we are really only, we're only a few months away from some of the big decisions being made. Like, we're going to see if Kemp is going to run in Georgia. We're going to see if Sununu is going to run in New Hampshire. Like, the what should have been a better map for the Democrats in the Senate, at the very least, is going to be a lot tougher than I think that they were thinking initially. And by the way, if you look at some of the demographic issues that they have right now, especially with the realignment that happened after 2024, I don't know if they got a lot of good years coming up. Like,
if anything, even if they pull it through, I feel like they're gonna have to spend money everywhere, right?
Everywhere.
So, like
everywhere.
So, so that's gonna be tough. But that's that's like such the big suspense of it, right? When I'm going to these town halls, I've only gone to a couple, but like seeing people angry and scared,
Yeah.
like as opposed to like, 2017, like energized to do something. And okay,
Yeah.
we will, to the extent that like voters perceived Trump's election as a mistake, an error, like,
Mhm.
okay, we're going to fix this. Like there was like this grand
We're
energy
going
of
to
like,
fight back. Yeah.
Democrats
The
are gonna,
resistance.
exactly. And like I think there was a sense that you could sort of tell where that was going, right? Like you go to these things and I don't think, I mean, people, talk to people in the parking lots, like they're leaving as scared as they were when they showed
Yeah.
up. Like they knew that there was going to be no like secret, strategy that they were let in on. They knew things were tough, but it's just, do I get the sense that all this momentum is going to like automatically translate into Dem momentum, or it's going to go, seek the lowest point like water, like, this is where, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's such a point of suspense right now. It's like, I mean, are Dems going to be able to like harness this and take it someplace,
I think that's part of what they need to sort of declare bankruptcy on, is the narrative that has led people to that kind of level of emotion, which is they pushed all in on this apocalyptic messaging with Trump, that this wasn't about an election. This was about society. This is about collapse. This is about authoritarianism. This is about dictatorship. The Supreme Court has made him a king and all that kind of stuff, which it's like, look, will that get people out of their seats? Yes. Do you have to deliver? Yeah, you do have to deliver on stuff like that, because if you lose, now where do you go? You can't put the temperature any higher than we have a king now.
Right.
And
No,
also
it's already
you have no positive message. You have no like, and with the Democrats, we will march forward and give you this. We will have this. This is the golden thing that we can get to.
Right.
And I don't know what that is. And I think from this conversation, they don't either.
Oh yeah, no. And again, like the protecting the status quo, like that's a message right now. Like that's, protecting things. But that doesn't address the question of like the broader vision. Okay, well, what, like, you'll be the defenders of the status quo. For many people in November that voted, status quo wasn't good enough, right? And
Yeah.
like to protect that, but then also I think there's a sense that you have to offer them something else. And that's where there's the curiosity of, okay, well, what's that going to be? What's that going to look like? What is the platform to pull people back in? What is the vision to pull people back in? And like in a propelling forward kind of way.
Yeah. Well, very, very illuminating conversation with the one, the only Katy Stech Ferek of the Wall Street Journal. People can read your work there at the Journal, which, by the way, I've said this to many people. I think that the Journal has the best team in DC, and I don't think it's particularly close. I think that the additions that you guys have made, especially you got Olivia Beavers from Politico. There's been a lot of great additions to that roster, and I'm so excited that you are a part of it, because I think, for my money, and I read everything, you guys are doing the best work there.
There's a lot going on. We're doing our best. Thanks for reading.
And you're succeeding. You're succeeding. Katy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that'll wrap it up for us today. Politics, written and hosted by me, Justin Robert Young, for Dog and Pony Show Audio in Austin, Texas. We are edited by the inimitable Will Saddleberg. You can email us, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Support us with a one-time donation, paypal.me/payjury. Venmo is Justin-Young-20. Cash App is PX3Cash. And you can hit me up with anything you'd like in the mail. Post Office Box 153184, Austin, Texas 78715. Of course, you can always get our bonus content at TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Paying members get 2 bonus episodes each and every week for $3 a week. Billed 12 monthly. Price of a cup of coffee. Or get our annual deal. Set it and forget it. By the time that you got to think about this again, we're going to be into the primaries of the midterms. So just do the annual deal. Cheaper than anything else. You're going to save money. We're just getting into the New York mayoral race. We're just getting into the governor's races in Virginia and New Jersey. I think I got talked into doing the New Jersey race, by the way. I ran into our boy J.D. Durkin here in Austin. He was down here for South by, and he was talking me into covering the New Jersey race. So I think I might have to go up to the Jers. I might have to pump my Sopranos. I might have to go back to my old stomping grounds of Hoboken and really get, some what's your exit Jersey stuff. That'd be really fun because apparently that governor's race might be closed. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah, sign up for the annual plan because you're going to get all that. It's going to be really fun. But of course, our founding tier is the only way that you get your name read on this show. Like these fine folks in the Titanic founding tier. Including L3PO, Peepaw, Scott, Middle-Aged Mike, Tom, Sarah, Jeannie, Jeremy, Pro Idiot, Chiller Tomatoes, oh yeah, it's Adam, Neil, AB Puppy, Just Another Pilot, Dr. Whiskey, Michael, Fat Tony Speed Chase from New York, Will, The Borge B, Matthew, Matt, Andrew, Edwin, Sam, Andrew, Phil, Edison, Devon, Paul, a dog named Checkers, Gloria, it's my mom, Jerry, Trucker, John, Berkeley, Steven, and Zombie Duck. Your name. You want it read on the show? One place to do it. Take politics seriously.com. Next week on the show, we got a few lines out there, but we have the great return of Mr. Michael Cohen. He has not been on in a minute. He's on again because he has a new edition of his book, Modern Political Campaigns. He is, of course, the man who wrote the book on the modern political campaign. And he's got a new edition out. We're going to talk about that and more. Now, I have Michael's book. Michael's book's phenomenal. But I also got another book, and I'm 2 chapters into it. I signed an NDA, so I don't know what I can say and what I can't say about it. But I will say that I've talked about both of these authors' other books before. I will say that it's a campaign book. And I will say that I really enjoyed the 2 chapters that I read the second that I got it from the publisher. And that we will interview those authors. Although that interview will be embargoed for when the book comes out. But so far, so good. Anyway, have a good weekend. Until next time, this is your old pal Justin Robert Young saying some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, and still more discuss politics. But this is the only show that dares discuss three.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Dog and Pony Show audio.